Now let me just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You might want to put it on slideshow mode.
Yes, just it. Okay, so what I basically want to talk about is how I made my work as a medium for inner growth. All right. Okay, so let's get going. Well, this first slide is actually for myself and not for you guys. The thing is that every time I basically share my story, my ego tends to portray it in a way that the life is really perfect and everything is really happy. But what I want to remind myself is that I'm actually work in progress, which means that I am continuing to notice new habitual tendencies, afflictions within myself, and it's a lifelong work. So I just want to remind my own ego with respect to this. That's why this slide. Now coming to the journey. So way back in 2013, so I'm starting from that point, and if during the whole course you feel like going even behind that point in time, so I'm happy to go there. So way back in 2013, I and my partner Divya, we both kind of realized that it would be good for us to actually live a peaceful life in the Himalayas and contribute to the world in our own capacity. What exactly did we want to do? We did not know about that, but what we wanted to so what we knew was that it would make more sense to kind of follow our heart and go one step at a time. So we sort of simplified our life right in the beginning. We started SAHAJ Foundation because people generally tend to respect organizations more and individuals less. So that was an irony. And because of that, we thought of starting an organization. But right in the beginning, we thought that we'll not scale it up, will not follow worldly frameworks, we'll keep it simple, will not write any proposals for fundraising or hire any employees or build any infrastructure. We did not want to complicate things, but we just wanted to explore ourselves and figure out what we really wanted to do in life. So we kept things simple. Also, we did not take any loan so that we don't have to, unnecessarily bear any pressure. So this was the beginning in 2013. And what we started doing at that time was we basically came to a village which is called Teal in Himachal Pradesh state of India. And we basically started working with local community kids in our own ways. We did a lot of experiments. We started small, staying organic, and we practiced multiple iterations. So these are a few photographs. In these photographs, there are workshops that we did with local community kids. These workshops were basically oriented around connecting kids with their own traditional knowledge systems. Because what we found was that while these kids were going to the schools were essentially preparing them for jobs, which means the schools were not really teaching them their own ways of doing things with respect to their traditions and communities. So we thought that why don't we fill that gap, and why don't we create processes which are project-based learning processes so that these kids can work in groups, speak to their elders, collect their traditional knowledge and present in front of their own community members, so that not only they get to learn with respect to traditional knowledge systems, but also their skill sets get improved. So
sorry for disturbing. I think your slide for me at least is not in presentation mode. I just see the first slide
it's not changing.
Yeah, it's just
that's true.
It's not coming to presentation mode. So
just let me do the screen share again. Which slide can you see now?
It is okay with the kid, but it's still not in presentation mode. So it's still in edit mode, whatever.
Slide number 4, yes.
What about now?
Still in edit mode. I mean, the slide is okay, but still in edit mode.
Yes.
So you're able to see the pictures, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
now
yes.
it's
It's slide number 4. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe then we can get going.
Yeah.
And now you're able to see different pictures.
Yes,
with
we
the
can
kid.
say.
Okay. Okay. So these are a few more experiments that we did. And this is the time that I'm talking around 2015, 16. It was also the time when we were facing a lot of challenges with respect to basically finding what we really wanted to do. That was the basic exploration. Because we wanted to because we chose to work on traditional knowledge systems, it was also kind of difficult to convince local schools or even parents to actually understand the importance of it because to be honest, our sessions did not help kids to score more in exams, right? We were not teaching mathematics, English, science. We were actually teaching them more about farming, more about their own local herbs, about waste that is kind of getting accumulated all around, and what can they do about that, etc. So there were a lot of challenges, and we were trying to handle all of them while also trying to figure out what we wanted to do at that time. One challenge that I can also talk about is with respect to finance, because right in the beginning we had thought that we will not write formal proposals. That also meant that we did not really have a formal channel of fundraising for ourselves, for our own salaries. So how we basically managed with the help of our friends. We wrote to them, we shared with them the work that we wanted to do, and many of them chose to voluntarily support us on a monthly basis. So it was thanks to our friends that we were basically able to do the work for first 2 to 3 years. Yeah, so now coming to the personal side, while we were doing our work with the community, at the same time, we kind of simplified our lifestyle. These are the photographs from our present setup. It was built in 2019 end. But before that, we were living on rent. So right now, the house that you can see this is the house that we have here in Build now. We started living in it from 2020 onwards. We also have a
Ashish, again, we're not able to see the slide that you're actually talking.
Let me then open a PDF probably, or maybe Harini, you have the slide with you, right? Can you open that one?
No, I'll have
It's
to
in that
look
folder.
for it. I'll have to look for it, Ashish.
Just a minute.
That might waste time. If you can open a
Okay,
PDF, that would
I
work.
can open a PDF then. My PDF takes a little time, so okay. In the meantime, I can still speak. So so right now we have got a farm, and what we try to do is the basic idea is that we minimize our expenses. We live a very simple and organic lifestyle, um, so that we basically can remain more connected to ourselves, and at the same time can do the experiments that we are doing. So let me just go back to the PDF now. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is where I was. Now, so this phase of doing experiments with local community kids kind of this phase ended by 2016 end, and from 2017 onwards, we came up with one program which was kind of very close to our heart. So the foundation of this program was this, that between 2014 and 16, we actually traveled quite a lot across the country, and we met many couples, many people who were working in deep interior villages, and they were basically working in those villages while keeping community self-reliance in their mind. So when we, in our own experiences, tried to observe the communities around us, we found that those communities did not only manage their day-to-day living requirements with the help of governments or markets, but they also had a way to actually take care of their own requirements with the help of their own people by using their own resources within their own boundaries. This we chose to call community self-reliance. It is also known by many different names. For example, SWARAJ is one of them. So what we thought that this understanding that we have got, we were anyways trying to pass this on to local community kids, but we thought that why don't we also try to organize workshops for people from across the country. So from 2017 onwards, we started doing this workshop, which was called Prashn Vikas Ka. I haven't mentioned that on the slide because that was in Hindi, but the full name was Prashn Vikas Ka, a dialogue on rural development. And the objective of the dialogue was to basically understand that there is this aspect called community self-reliance in the rural areas, because for urban audience, the people who have gone through mainstream education processes, what they tend to learn is that there are either governments or markets. So there is basically binary or polarity, and the whole debate is around this, that should we move our economy more towards markets or more towards governments? It's either socialism or capitalism, so to say. But actually, in reality, if you look at rural communities, it's not only governments or markets, but also community self-reliance that is actually possible and workable. So with these objectives, we kind of organized these workshops from 2017 to 19. Now, coming to this question that how were these workshops helping me to focus on my inner growth? That's the central objective of this whole talk. So one thing was that through these workshops, I was able to see that what were my own inclinations or biases with respect to these three systems. So I found that in 2017, while I started doing these workshops, I was personally more biased or inclined towards community self-reliance. And every time any participant in the workshop would kind of critique that space, I would feel some discomfort within. But by the time more and more workshops were organized, and by the time 2019 came, I could see that I was more able to understand the limitations of community self-reliance as well. There was no more, so to say, discomfort or anger within while people were kind of critiquing that space, or while people were promoting governments or market-based systems. And I was also myself able to see the advantages of governments and market-based systems and appreciate them by the end of the whole 3-year cycle. So this way I can say that I was, in this whole journey, I was kind of able to disidentify myself from my own personal biases or identifications, and I was able to kind of become neutral towards all three spaces and really look at them objectively. So these were my learnings from these workshops. Parallelly, because we live in Bed, and Bed is a place where there is Tibetan settlement, so we get ample opportunities to actually attend a lot of meditation-related programs. There are many Tibetan Buddhist teachers who kind of organized teachings here. And even before coming to BEAD, before 2013, I got introduced to meditation from Goenka ji's Vipassana courses. So um, practicing meditation and awareness has been a continuous process so far, overcoming habitual tendencies, trying to see what patterns the mind uh, holds, and what kind of what kind of conditionings are there right from the childhood. That is basically a consistent endeavor so far. Trying to be with the way reality is. This is a very kind of very central theme in Buddhism, and how I tend to practice that is by going beyond my thoughts, by not thinking unnecessarily, by trying to just remain in the present moment, if the thinking is not required. So overall, the idea is that can I live a life that is in tune with the universe through a different value system, a life that follows generosity, gratefulness, abundance, trust, surrender, compassion, and humility. So it's like this, that what I have realized so far is that if within myself I'm able to live in that vibrational zone, then the universe kind of reciprocates, and the more I surrender, the more magic actually happens, kind of that. This quote that is written right at the end, I came across this just last month, and it made a lot of sense, so I chose to include it here. If you are joyful by the end of the day, you are moving towards truth. So I cannot say that I am joyful every day, but that's the effort, or that's the intention. Now coming to what we have been doing on other vertical side, we've been doing a lot of experiments. So I'm going to talk about them now. And while talking about them, with every experiment, my central question would be, how is that experiment helping me to grow from within? Since 2014 itself, we've been organizing many meditation retreats. For example, we started with Head to Heart retreat in 2014. The objective of this retreat was to basically inspire many friends and colleagues of ourselves who are basically still working or doing the jobs that they don't really want to do. So we kind of work at that time. We were creating 6 to 7 days long spaces or environments by inviting people here in BEAD and taking them through a process that would inspire them to listen to their heart's calling and basically follow it, gather courage to follow it if possible. This quote here on left top is from one of these gatherings. It says that it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. The essential is invisible to the eye, to the eyes. So this is one example of the retreat that we've been doing. During COVID times, we had to basically move online. So we have come up with Cultivating Emotional Balance, a retreat which is basically led by my partner Divya. And the objective of this retreat is to basically apply Buddhist teachings to basically understand our own emotions and try to transform them more towards love, compassion, and empathy. Likewise, dealing with negative emotions retreat we were doing pre-pandemic times. So basically the retreat vertical, why we are doing these retreats, number one, it helps us to pass on our learnings to people who need them around ourselves. Number two, it helps us to understand ourselves better, because the more we organize such spaces, the more we are able to go within ourselves and understand our own limitations or possibilities. Number three, it helps us to basically walk with a sangha, a community of like-minded people, of people who want to grow from within and really become their best in the outside world as well. So moving on, the Vriksha initiative. So this is an initiative that we have been doing for early stage social leaders who are serving communities across India. So the purpose of this initiative is to become an incubation platform for these early stage social leaders. And so let me just talk a little bit about these photographs on the screen. On left top is Siddhesh Sakure. He is in Maharashtra state of India, and he works on regenerative farming. So through the Vriksha initiative, we are basically supporting him for his personal living expenses while he's doing his work on ground. So we are not basically, so the work is already started by Siddhesh. Our job is to only support him for his personal living expenses right now, so that he does not face financial troubles a lot and he can focus on his work. All right. So it's not that SAHAJ Foundation is doing this work. The work is done by Siddhesh through his own organization, and we are simply supporting his personal life expenses and also providing mentorship wherever he needs it. Likewise, on right top is Amit Raj, who works with elderly people or mentally challenged people who live on roadsides in Bhilai, Chhattisgarh. So what he does is he has opened up a rehabilitation center in which he basically has around 15 to 20 elderly right now, and he's taking care of them on day-to-day basis. Again, he has got his own organization, and we are supporting him for his personal living expenses. How are we supporting? We are, of course, raising funds for this with the help of individuals, again, by not writing proposals, by not reaching out to institutional funding, but by reaching out to individuals who are interested to support such initiatives. They have joined us, and with their support, we are kind of doing this work. Then on left bottom is Tanya Kheda, who is working near Dehradun with tribal communities on healthcare. And on right bottom is Pranali, who is again working in Maharashtra, Yavatmal district, on education with tribal kids. So we have around 8 to 9 social leaders that we are working with right now through the Vriksha initiative. And with time, we want to actually work with more and more. How is this work helping us to grow from within? Well, there are many things. Number one, when we started doing this work, what we actually thought was that, personally, we may feel that promoting only community self-reliance is the way to go, but there may be many other ways to actually serve the communities, and you never know whether you are actually on the right side of the ideas or not, right? So this work helps us to work with people who hold different perspectives but same intentions, who want to serve humanity, but who have different understanding of how that can be done. Like, for example, one of my co-founders for this initiative, he is right now in London, and his name is Ankit, and he comes from the corporate background. On the other side, I left corporates way back in 2011. I'm basically pro-community, and he's pro-markets in a way. But we both are working together to basically lead this initiative with same intentions. Our perspective, our paradigms may be different, but our intentions are same. So this whole thing helps us to kind of empathize more with other perspectives and get detached more with our own conditionings, right? So that's a major aspect of inner growth for us. Number two, through our other initiatives, what we tend to do is we try to work at the root causes where the problem lies. But when we are working with social leaders, they may not always be working at the root causes, right? I mean, sometimes you have to work with the communities to provide them food and immediate short-term support because that's the need of the times, right? Though they may not be the root causes, but they are required. So like that, through these initiatives, we are able to, we are basically trying to work with people, even if they are more focused on short-term changes, because that's the need of the hour for them right now. So that, of course, gives rise to some discomfort from within, and our job is to basically make peace with that, or be comfortable with that. So that's about it. The next is, so I already talked about Prashna Vikas Ka, which is PVK. Now I'm coming to NDNK, which means Naya Daur Nayi Kalpana. In English, it would go like New Era, New Imaginations. So we started these gatherings in pandemic times from 2020 onwards. The idea was that can we come together online to basically reimagine socioeconomic systems. So what we thought was that what if we basically pick up a few really good books as our guiding light, we read them, and then we come together to kind of go deeper. So book reading was happening offline, while going deeper and trying to create more understanding was happening online. So in 2020, we picked up these 4 books: Donut Economics by Kate Raworth, Economy of Permanence by J.C. Kumarappa, who is known as a Gandhian economist. Then Small is Beautiful by E.F. Schumacher, quite famous book. Then Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein. And so we have done these gatherings twice for now. One in 2020 and one in 2021. They've been really amazing so far. We get people from really diverse backgrounds in these gatherings. Like in the last gathering in 21, we had a total of 27 people, and 3 of them were like in school or college, and 3 of them were like 70 plus of age. And majority was like between 30 to 45 years of age, with corporate background, non-profit background, mostly all different variations that can be possible. So this is about these programs. How do these programs help me to grow from within? Again, it's so these programs are mostly like when we try to understand the limitations of the present economic systems and figure out the possibilities of creating new ones. These programs help me to go deeper into the rational space mostly, and try to go beyond the emotional viewpoints. Like, for example, emotionally speaking, many of us in India are quite inclined towards community community consensus or kind of increasing Swaraj, but that may not be applicable to macro situations around the country or around the world. So we have to take our we have to basically build our understanding based on research, data, and macroeconomic principles. So through these gatherings, I'm able to basically go towards that space within myself to basically understand that what feels right in micro space may not work at macro space as well. Now coming to this amazing program that we've designed just like 14, 15 months back. This is called Culture for Inner Growth Program. Basically, this is around transforming organizational culture, and this program is it has very much to do with Teal Around the World workshop festival, basically. So this program seeks its inspiration from Reinventing Organization, the work of Frederick Laloux. So the idea of this program, let me just try to explain how it actually came. So I came across Frederick in 2019 when he was speaking in one of the conferences, Global Eco-Village Network conferences. And when I heard him, what I realized was that thus far we've been focusing on our inner growth while doing our work under SAHAJ Foundation. And we had this idea that it is the responsibility of every individual to kind of focus on his or her personal or inner growth. But Frederick actually kind of passed on this idea that it is also possible to transform organizational structures, the ways things are done in organizations, in a way, the rules, the processes, the systems of the organization, so that people who are working in that organization, they can also actually get to grow from within by simply participating in that organization. So that was an amazing possibility for us, and we thought that why don't we give it a shot? Why don't we try it? So in December 2020, we kind of approached one friend of ours. He basically runs the startup in law education space online, and he had a team of 18 to 20 people. So he was quite interested to kind of experiment with this idea. And then we engaged with that team for around 3 to 4 months. And the whole engagement was around the learnings of this book or the teachings that come from this book. So now in 21, then we basically launched Culture for Inner Growth Intensive, in which we kind of invited working professionals and founding members from around the country, and we had a wonderful learning time. And again, this year in April, we have launched this program in which we are really looking forward to work with working professionals and founding members. How this program is helping me to grow from within? Well, it's a direct connection this time, because the more I'm able to understand the organizations and the people who are working in them, the more I'm able to understand different facets of my own self, because there are many things that are within me that are not visible to me right up front. But when I get to hear the perspective from people during the course of interactions during this program, I get to actually see that those perspectives also lie within me, somewhere invisible at times. So this program is very much kind of in line with the whole idea of my own inner growth. So so that's about it. So by the end, I had added one more slide in that one, and that was this question that how is your work helping you to grow from within? So that's where I end.
Wonderful. This is really insightful, and we have a very cozy garden today, so we'll use this as an opportunity to ask. I'll ask my questions, and then if Pritika or Rajesh would like to have. So one is a question I have actually, and since I'm also doing a lot of work with young children in terms of helping them understand and build a purpose for themselves before they get into the corporate rat race. Question I have is, there are a lot of distractions today. Distractions in the sense you walk into any metro city in India, and you see a shopping mall at every half a kilometer. Now these are distractions, because the moment you take your children into a shopping mall, they kind of start believing that this is what good life is all about. And it's sometimes very difficult for us to pull them away from the glamour of modernization, the glamour of capitalism, and to take them to their roots. It's actually going against the current. It's like swimming against the current. How does one build this sense of purpose in children in an urban environment? It may be a little easy in a rural environment because you're surrounded by the goodness of nature, so it becomes relatable. In an urban environment, what are your thoughts? How can one bring the sense of purpose in young children?
That's a difficult question, Harini. I don't really have an answer to it, but what I understand is that without changing the environment, it will be very, very difficult. It's true that parents who are living in urban areas, it would be difficult for them to change the whole city, but they can at least try to change the environment within their own houses. That's in their hands. So I would say that imbibing a few practices, time to stay away from technology, having meals together, sitting together, talking about it, reading books, converting your whole house into a library. These can be the ways, possibly. Other than this, picking up the right schools can be another method. Now there are many, so-called alternative schools coming up across India, at least, as far as I understand. So if parents are interested with respect to creating purposeful or meaningful journeys for their kids, it will make a lot of sense for them to spend time in knowing the educational spaces that are coming up around their city and visit them and try to pick up a school that kind of provides an environment in which is in alignment with this cause. So yes, at least they can choose these two things. Third, they can probably also choose where they, as well as their kids, spend time together in public places or outsides. Because it's like, if parents don't change their own lifestyles, it will be very difficult for kids to actually, follow their instructions. So if parents are going to malls, kids are going to learn that. If parents are going to kind of do shopping excessively, kids are definitely going to learn that. Kids learn, basically they learn from what you do and not what you say, right? So parents will have to understand that.
Very well said. I think the whole concept of being mindful in your choices,
Right.
even, of course, there will be distractions, there will be things around you, but making the right choices is where mindfulness actually starts. And definitely it starts from the parents, and we lead by example. So I think, you very beautifully said there are small ways in which we can actually counter these distractions. I tried a few experiments, and it's definitely making a difference to my teenagers, and I'm sure it will do to all. I started off with simple activities like feeding birds on your window, keeping some water for the birds, especially in the scorching summer in Mumbai. It definitely made a difference. Children get attracted to looking at the beauty of nature, the behavior of animals and birds around, and then it becomes a good conversation starter. So I think definitely if you put some effort to counter the excessive use of technology and digital screens by just showing your amazement at things around you, it connects you with nature, and probably that takes you to a purpose. So I really like the idea that it starts with parents, and we have to make that first attempt to counter it.
So I was once basically in a gathering, and one person in that gathering kind of put it this way. He said that when you are in urban spaces, you don't really have much nature around you. You have mostly human creations around you.
Yes.
And that tends to boost your ego, because it's like you see all around and you see that in a way, as humans, you have made it. It's like you don't get this sense of that there are things beyond your creations
Yeah, the
as well,
sense
right?
of awe is
Yeah.
not there. Yeah.
But when you are when you are in countryside, or when you are in forests, there are things that are happening beyond your understanding as well.
Yes.
There are things that you just cannot create. Like, for example, can you make a tree grow? I mean, as a human being, we cannot, but Earth can, right? Uh, we can definitely break a branch, but we cannot kind of get it back to the tree again, right? So when you are in nature, then then you have this understanding that uh, it's not only you who is doing the creation, right? So your ego tends to take a backseat, and that is that creates a lot of space that fills you with a lot of different vibes.
Hmm. Yeah, excellent. We have a couple of questions from Kate, and I think let's take a look at that.
Mhm.
So, Kate is actually curious on what way we can practice community self-reliance in a long term, because we know that culture is a long journey, and we need to
Mhm.
keep reinventing culture. So, how do you connect the dots with community self-reliance and transforming your inner growth
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
culture transformation?
Okay, so let's talk about an urban context, because so far I've been talking about rural contexts.
Yes.
Let's talk about apartment buildings and society, a closed gated society in which people are just living within. Most of the time, I mean, as far as my experience goes, what I feel is that people living in one society don't really know each other that well, right? Because they don't have time to spend on each other. They are all busy with their jobs. It's not their fault, it's the system that's basically driving them. What they can choose to do is, I mean, if we carefully observe, there are too much of market participants and government participants, and too less of community participants. So they can consciously choose to increase their community participation. And one of the best methods of doing that is by not using mainstream currency. If, for example, in an urban society, people um, choose to say that, okay, for some things, we will not use money, but we will actually seek support from each other. Um, it can be, I mean, these days we also actually celebrate festivals by using market methods. There are some organizers who choose to organize Holi, and then people actually buy a ticket and they play Holi by going to such places. Or New Year celebrations, they are quite famous. You buy tickets and you go there. But what if people choose that, say, on any New Year Eve, they will celebrate by not using money as a mode of transaction. They will not go to markets to actually um, buy buy balloons or something, but they will actually create their own things with the help of their own community members, and they will decorate their whole spaces out of their own creations, and then they will prepare their own sweets inside their homes. They will not buy any sweets from outside, and and they will just sit together, share stories, dance with each other, listen to the music, sing songs without inviting any DJ from outside. This way, what I believe is that the community aspect can improve, and of course, this is also going to give quite a boost to the inner growth aspect as well, because when we are not participating in any of the spaces, like for example, if we are not participating in community spaces, then there are parts of us within ourselves that are not being addressed. We are not at that time, then we are not getting connected to people. And I mean, today morning I was listening to Dirk, and just 2 hours ago, his session was he was from TT Group, and in one sentence, he actually mentioned about this. He said that he believes that work is actually an excuse for us to get connected to each other, to find connections with each other. So when we are not participating that much in the spaces of the community, but what is actually happening is that there are parts of us within ourselves that are that we are not getting connected to, and that's how we feel a void within ourselves. If we choose to consciously operate more in community spaces, this way we will be able to address those parts within ourselves, and we will be able to ensure our inner growth as well.
Interesting. Kate also has another point to make, and she would be interested in hearing your thoughts about it. And she feels that giving emphasis on simplicity and appreciation to the beauty of simplicity is somehow not in the spotlight. When it comes to organizations, definitely it's not in the spotlight because, as organizations are evolving, things tend to become complex. And that's what Teal actually strives to do, to connect people in organizations with a purpose so that this doesn't happen. But what are your thoughts around it? Simplicity not being given its due emphasis and appreciation of beauty spotlight. What do you think about it, and what can we do to do things differently?
I think it's quite obvious. Actually, if we have a socioeconomic system that is based upon more and more buying, materialism, consumerism, then definitely we want to create advertisements, and we want to bombard our mental spaces to kind of move away from simplicity. Because let's go back to my previous example. I was talking about celebrating festivals without engaging in markets. Well, there are a lot of counters. There can be a lot of counters to this thought process, because how are we then going to create jobs? How are we then going to support our economy? Because our economic systems and our the way we calculate our GDP, well, we don't really count the contribution of non-monetary transactions or what happens in the community spaces. So when we are not doing that, then for our socioeconomic systems, it makes a lot of sense to actually create a lot of advertisements and create perceptions that are not in line with simplicity. So now how can we improve them or create such spaces in organizations? I think, as far as my present understanding goes, what I believe is that if people within the organizations, I'm basically talking about wholeness here, the wholeness aspect of Teal organizations. If there is more invitation for wholeness in organizations, then people are able to stay more in touch with themselves. If they are able to stay more in touch with themselves, then they are able to actually realize that they don't necessarily need to buy a lot of stuff to actually make themselves happy. When they actually realize this for themselves, then they will also eventually realize the same for their customers and for the society in general. And this would be a way for them to actually change their business practices as well. Because, if you look at the story of Patagonia, which is kind of mentioned in the book, it's really amazing for Patagonia to run ads to say that don't buy our product. We'll fix the one that you already have, but which is kind of broken, and we'll fix it and we'll give it back to you, and we won't necessarily charge you for that. That's amazing. But how would so what I actually think is that how would a company like Patagonia run such an ad? What would give courage to the people of Patagonia to actually go this way? The obvious or one possible explanation that I can have is their people must be deeply connected to themselves. If they are not, it's not possible for them to take this business decision at all.
So, somewhere I hear you saying minimalism and simplicity are connected, right?
Mhm.
So is it or is it not? Is minimalism the same thing as simplicity, or you can still demonstrate simplicity in your living even if you're not minimalistic? What do you think about?
I think that's a wonderful question because so far in my conversation, I have kind of mixed both of them. But if I
Mm,
think about it right now, um, I would say they're not necessarily related. It's a relative question. Like, for example, um, for me, simplicity can be to have a two-room house because that's that has been my perception and my way of living so far. On the other side, for a person living in the US, a simplicity can be to have a swimming pool as well, right? Because that's his or her way of living. Basically, what is simplicity? Simplicity is when you have just sufficient possessions with you so that you are able to stay in touch with yourself. You are
mm,
not being distracted unnecessarily.
mm,
And now, in order to maintain that, whatever you need is your minimalism.
mm.
And your definition of minimalism can be very different from my definition of minimalism.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yes.
thank you for this question. It was wonderful.
Yeah, because I keep talking about, I mean, I discovered that it is possible to survive a normal life uh, with just one induction cooker and
Mhm.
one cooker and two pans, and it is very much possible to cook three meals
Mhm.
in that. And that's when it opened my eyes to the concept of minimalism. And then I was just wondering that simplicity, you rightly said, it's a relative term. My life was X and now I've made it Y. It's simpler than X, and therefore I'm on a
Mhm.
journey towards simplicity. But that
Mhm.
may not be minimalism. Minimalism is probably even beyond that, where you actually learn to differentiate between your needs and wants. And as
Mhm.
close you come towards your needs, I think you start understanding minimalism a lot more than you can still have wants and be simple, but when your focus is on needs, I think that's where you're reaching minimalism. Thank you so much, and we are almost at the top of the hour. Ashish, it was wonderful,
Yeah,
and because we had a very cozy audience, it was more like a one-on-one conversation for me.
actually, yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for finding time.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if we have anything that Rajesh or Pritika would like to say, we can use the next 5 minutes for it.
मुझे आशीष से को दोबारा सुनना और इस तरह सुनना बहुत ही अच्छा लगा. I have been in touch with Ashish for last few months. I have been through some of his courses, and now my organization itself is getting coached on reinventing uh, my organization as Frederick Lawless has suggested. So I'm very happy to hear him again, and further inspired by him. And I have much similarity with Ashish, but there are a lot of struggles. For example, this in the talk about young generations, and I find that they're in a hurry. I mean, when it comes to making a choice, like mood nahi ban raha hai, 'cause I'm a bit upset. What to do? Then what? Something that can immediately gratify them would be like watching a movie or song or eating out. But idea of slowing down and going deeper inside to really come out with something which will really satisfy oneself, there is no space or time for that for the young generation. And here we as a parent or as an elder, what we can do to help the our kids, youngsters, to at that moment of decision, how can we help them at that moment of decision, that they slow down a bit and go a step inside. And so, but and here I feel myself helpless in the family.
Interesting question. While Ashish responds to that in 2 minutes, let me tell you कि आपने शुरुआत में 2 शब्द हिंदी में जो बोल दिए बड़ा अच्छा लगा सुनने में. So over to you, Ashish. You can respond to his question. We have 3 minutes to close this session.
Well, actually, I was not listening to Rajesh with this intention of responding later, but I completely understand. It's quite difficult with the environment that we have these days, and the kids are kind of bombarded with so many different triggers from all different directions, and I understand that as parents, it's actually very, very difficult to create different kind of environment.
So I think I just wanted to add one piece here as a thought was that, especially when you look at the Teal concept, so one of the pieces of evolutionary purpose that we went through, and I always try and come back to this point, especially when you look at kids, saying that we have to also let go of some of our thought process if we were to allow that evolutionary purpose to emerge through the children. I feel like, so I think that's my point of also saying that it's okay. Sometimes you feel like things are going so wrong. But if you have to allow evolutionary purpose as for an organization and therefore also perhaps for society, while we will have our own lenses. And and first of all, I would say that this is thanks to Ashish. And again, I also tend to have the presenting organizations close to them, and that's why I got exposed to all that. So thanks Ashish for that. And I just wanted to also leave you guys with this thought.
Thank you so much, Preetika. Thanks, Rajesh, and thanks everyone in the Teal team here. And thank you so much once again, Ashish, and look forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.